Okay, let's unpack this. We've received a really fascinating stack of sources today, and they take us right into the deep end, exploring non-ordinary states of consciousness. Today, we're looking at the spiritual and energetic life of the animal kingdom. We'll cover animal consciousness, how karma might suddenly apply to them, and some incredibly specific, pretty unusual claims about external interference, manipulation even.
Right, and our mission here is really to filter through this material. It's important to remember it leans heavily on an investigative protocol that uses, non-ordinary perception. So we're dealing with claims that put a huge emphasis on energetic dynamics, things like how animals interact with humans, and maybe how they could be influenced by, well, non-physical external forces.
And you are definitely going to need your, let's say, your critical thinking hat firmly on.
Sure.
Because the real aha moment here isn't just about the wild claims themselves. It's also the source material itself insists on extreme critical thinking. It kind of warns you. I mean, we're talking about a worldview where your dog's emotional trauma could literally dictate its next incarnation. And where, get this, your breakfast egg might be part of some kind of egg central control plan. So yeah, let's jump in, maybe start by defining the sort of energetic boundaries of the animal world as presented here.
Okay, so when these sources talk about animal consciousness, it's not just one single concept. The material actually breaks it down into distinct categories, really, based on how the animal experiences reality.
I saw that. They identified 3 levels, didn't they? First, you've got the animals in close proximity. That's like domesticated mammals, right? Dogs, cats. And the claim is that because they're so consistently close to humans, their consciousness develops beyond just the collective. It achieves a kind of individuality through their emotional body. Is that the idea?
Precisely. Then the second category is collective consciousness. Think ants or, many insects. Here, the individual identity is sort of secondary. If you connect to one, you're basically tapping into the entire collective all at once. And then finally, there's what they call hybrid consciousness. Animals like dolphins and whales. Their consciousness is described as more specific, but it seems to sit somewhere kind of in between that deep collective and the individual level.
Okay, 3 levels. Now, what connects all of these terrestrial animals? There was that central concept, the cupola, which translates roughly as...
The Earth's energetic dome, yeah.
Yeah.
It's described as a sort of metaphysical consciousness field, extending from the Earth's own essence, apparently, and covering all animal life on land.
an energetic dome. Interesting. But it wasn't completely sealed off, was it?
No, and that's absolutely fascinating. The dome is explicitly described as being permeable. And this is crucial because, according to these sources, that permeability is the fundamental vulnerability. It's what supposedly allows for external manipulation, things like genetic interference, laboratory stuff. And the intention claimed isn't just messing with individual animals, but ultimately controlling all vital expression, all consciousness linked to the Earth itself.
Wow, okay. So if that dome is the kind of default state for animal consciousness,
Yeah.
what separates it from our consciousness? What's the core difference they point to?
Well, the material posits one key difference. Animal consciousness, in its natural state within that dome, lacks the intrinsic capacity to self-observe. It can't mirror itself, as they put it. And this ability for self-reflection, for self-observation, is what the source claims is absolutely essential for the kind of expansive, dynamic movement we see in human consciousness.
Okay, self-observation is the key, which raises a really interesting question then. If we, as humans, possess that key, can we inadvertently, maybe, unlock that same capacity in the animals living closely around us?
That's exactly where those close proximity animals come back in. The sources state quite clearly that when an animal lives in deep symbiotic coexistence with a human, its consciousness can adapt. It can gain that expansive self-observing capacity we were just talking about.
And that shared experience, that deep bond, creates something else the sources mentioned, a karmic charge, is that right? They actually claim domestic animals can accumulate individual karma because of shared emotional experiences, like not just affection, but also shared trauma. It develops a, quote, different quality in their emotional body.
Yes, exactly. And it seems to be related to how trauma sticks or doesn't stick. The sources note something interesting. Generally, animals experience danger. They might shake it off, literally, and their nervous system just moves on, mostly. But trauma, that does create a lasting imprint. They use the example of an abused dog whose whole system is maybe permanently altered by fear and stress. That kind of deep trauma is claimed to cause the emotional body to actually increase in size and density, and that then leads to the formation of these individual energetic bonds.
Huh. It sounds almost like the human bond acts as a sort of psychological catalyst. It shifts the animal's baseline from just reacting to things to actually experiencing lasting emotional depth. Is that a fair way to put it?
I think that captures the essence of the claim, yes. And that profound shared experience, what they call the energetic thread or vinculo energetico, that thread is claimed to survive physical death. So that 16-year bond you might have with a pet, it isn't just memory. It acts like a literal thread, potentially influencing where that animal's energy goes next. It's reincarnation.
Whoa. Okay, so influencing reincarnation. Does the animal then get a choice about its next life? How does that work?
Well, the claim is that they become subject to the reincarnation cycle only if they develop that larger individual emotional body, either through this sustained shared experience with humans or possibly through permanent friction with animals of a different species, which is an interesting side note. Otherwise, if they haven't developed that individuality, their energetic essence just returns to the general collective animal consciousness, that dome we talked about. As for a human choosing to reincarnate as a domestic animal, the source describes it very strangely. It's less like a rational choice, apparently, and more like a subtle inclination, like smelling an aroma you really want to eat and just being drawn towards it. A fluctuation, they call it.
A fluctuation towards being the cat. Okay. That's quite a concept. All right, so the formation of that individual emotional body creates the potential for karma, but you said earlier it also creates a vulnerability, the opening. And this next segment, I have to say, contains some of the most high-stakes claims about external interference.
Yes, it really does. That domestic animal's developed emotional body is claimed to provide that very opening. An opening for external, non-physical entities. The sources sometimes refer to them as archontic forces or forces of control to essentially, well, possess the animal.
Possess? You mean like possess your pet dog? Seriously.
That's the claim. The source material suggests these controlling forces can utilize domesticated animals,
Yeah.
particularly ones maybe with some latent aggression, and use them to emanate energies like violence, fear, general aggression into the environment around them, so subtly manipulating the mood, the feeling of a household or even a neighborhood.
Okay, that's unsettling. Beyond that kind of direct energetic manipulation, the claims get even more physical, right? Into manipulating our actual resources.
They do. The sources describe something akin to genetic warfare. Alien energies, they claim, manipulating animals in lab settings. Things like releasing slightly altered versions of creatures, maybe even ones thought extinct. Sometimes the purpose is apparently to carry pathogens or just represent a physical danger to limit human movement or expansion. There was an example related to Africa, controlling space. They even get incredibly specific about chromosome pairs being targeted in labs. Dogs, pair 17. Cats, pairs 3 or 4, cows, pair 5. Highly specific claims.
Wow, chromosome pairs. That level of detail is something else. What about the food chain itself? Cows were mentioned specifically.
Yes, the cow example is quite detailed. It describes these entities observing the cow's general obedience or passivity and then manipulating them. Maybe inserting some kind of energy into the brain, causing sudden madness or aggression, like mad cow disease perhaps, but framed energetically. And the crucial claim, the really startling part, is that humans then ingest this modified energy when they consume the beef. So essentially taking the manipulation directly into their own systems.
Good grief. And okay, the most specific, and I have to say, frankly, bizarre warning in this whole section was about breakfast protein. Eggs.
The egg warning, yes. The source warns that highly hybridized chicken and egg DNA is being unnaturally agglutinated. That's the term used. Glued together almost.
Agglutinated. And the supposed consequence of eating this.
The alleged consequence is systemic acidification in the human body, which, they claim, decreases cellular metabolism and critically makes human DNA less adaptable, less responsive to the environment.
Huh. That's a fascinating, kind of scary reversal of the adaptation principle we discussed earlier, where DNA is supposed to be super adaptable. So, okay, if someone's concerned they've ingested this modified energy or agglutinated DNA, is there a suggested countermeasure? Did the sources offer anything?
Yes, actually, there is a suggested fix. It involves consciously connecting to the essence of freedom before eating. For instance, visualize a free-range chicken, its natural state. The idea is that by making this energetic connection first, your energetic body absorbs the pure nutrition, sort of bypassing the claimed negative physical effects of the DNA manipulation.
Connect to the chicken's freedom.
Okay.
And finally, just to show the sheer breadth of this alleged interference, there were a couple more really unusual examples we probably shouldn't skip. Dolphins.
Right, dolphins, highly sensitive animals. The claim is that strong electromagnetic fields, like from cell phones or especially 5G towers, damage their complex orientation systems, causes group separation, decreases their energetic body, and creates actual fissures in their connection to their core essence.
Okay, EMF impact. And then the last one, probably the most out there claim, the axolotl,
Yeah.
the Mexican walking fish.
Ah, yes, the agile maneuver, as it's sometimes called in the material. The source claims the growing popularity and visibility of this specific creature, the axolotl, is not accidental. It's supposedly an interference maneuver by specific non-physical entities, sometimes labeled reptiloids in these contexts. The Jambata basically camouflage their own presence or influence in human life, similar to negative priming like you see in movies sometimes, making reptilian forms visible, familiar, maybe even cute and accepted in our daily environment. It's an incredibly layered and unusual claim.
Reptiloid camouflage via popular pets.
Yeah.
Okay, my head is spinning a little bit now. That whole last segment just completely throws conventional biology out the window, doesn't it? I mean, if DNA is being manipulated that rapidly, that specifically, what does that even imply about evolution as we usually understand it?
Well, you've hit on a key point. The sources pretty explicitly reject the kind of long-term linear Darwinian evolution that, we're all taught in school. Instead, they argue for constant short-term adaptation and recreation. DNA is described not as this slowly mutating code, but as highly plastic, almost fluid, constantly interacting with and adapting to every sensory impression, every interaction in the environment. The claim is literally that every impression changes the DNA instantly. Life becomes a moment-to-moment creation, not a slow process needing millennia.
Wow. Creation in real time, based on experience. That's a huge conceptual shift.
Right.
But now, okay, now we really have to address the elephant in the room, maybe the reptiloid in the room, I don't know. We've explored consciousness domes, animal karma, manipulated cows, camouflage axolotls. What does the source material itself say about how reliable any of this information actually is?
And this right here is the critical insight. This is the ultimate so what. For you, the listener, trying to make sense of all this. If we connect everything back to the bigger picture presented in the sources, the material explicitly includes a severe warning about its own methodology.
It critiques itself. That's unusual.
It does, quite strongly. Information derived from these non-ordinary states, like deep hypnosis, which is often part of the protocol, is claimed to be highly contaminated, potentially very unreliable. And the reason given is twofold. First, the information passes through many different dimensions or layers of reality, where various intelligences or entities can apparently distort it, deliberately or not. And second, it's inevitably filtered through the mental structure, the biases, the opinions, the existing beliefs of the person in the state of hypnosis. Their mind shapes the output.
Okay, that is a massive caveat. That applies to basically everything we've just spent the last 10 minutes discussing.
Yeah, it's huge. It's presented as the gold standard warning within this field of investigation. The source material actually dictates that truly reliable investigation, to get past this contamination, requires an incredibly rigorous protocol. You have to ask the exact same questions over hundreds, maybe even thousands of different sessions with different people, and only the tiny percentage of information that consistently shows up across all those sessions, the common denominators, the nuggets of gold, as they sometimes call them, only that small fraction is considered potentially reliable data. The vast majority, just noise, contamination, discarded.
So essentially, we've explored this vast, incredibly detailed worldview that is both phenomenal in its scope and complexity, and simultaneously incredibly guarded, even self-critical, about its own claims. It forces you, the listener, to do that filtering work yourself, to sift through the noise to find any potential core message. #outro.
We've covered quite a range today. The idea of animal consciousness as this energetic dome, the profound mechanism proposed for how human emotional bonds might trigger individual karma, even reincarnation in pets, and then that whole layered landscape of potential external forces targeting everything from, migrating dolphins to the cow on your dinner plate.
Yeah. And whether you, listening now, find the specific claims about, say, chromosome pair 5 in cows, or energetic threads, or reptiloid camouflage maneuvers plausible or, frankly, completely unbelievable, the sheer scope of this non-conventional view of life is pretty remarkable in itself, isn't it? It totally shifts the focus from just simple biology to this idea of constant, almost instantaneous energetic adaptation and creation. It certainly gives you a lot more to think about the next time you look at your dog or your cat, or maybe even your axolotl.
And maybe here's a final provocative thought for you to take away, building on that idea of adaptation. The source material consistently suggests that this adaptation, this change, is constant creation and recreation happening in every single moment, not some slow burn process over decades or centuries. So if even a subtle sensory impression or a fleeting interaction can supposedly change your DNA instantly, what does that imply about the potential power right now in this moment of your own focused intention, your own consciousness? What could that instantaneously influence in your physical reality?